Welcome to the Cashflow Ninja, the podcast sharing how to create and grow income streams and manage, multiply, and protect your wealth in the new economy. Are you tired of trading your time for money? Do you desire freedom today instead of retirement in 10, 20, or 30 years? I'm MC Laubscher, and this is the Cashflow Ninja. Hello, Cashflow Ninjas. MC Laubscher here, and welcome to another episode of the Cashflow Ninja. I have a great show for you today, and in today's show, we're going to look at how you can increase your real estate cash flow through cost segregation and bonus depreciation. My guest in this episode is Yonah Weiss. As the business director for Madison SPECS, LLC, Yonah will provide you with expert engineering-based cost segregation studies. Cost segregation is an internal revenue service approved process for reclassifying real estate components and improvements to accelerate depreciation deductions, defer taxes, and improve cash flow. Madison SPECS is an in-house team of accountants and engineers that combine tax and engineering strategies to analyze construction, contracts, and building plans in order to identify those assets that qualify for accelerated depreciation for tax purposes. The benefits of the significant tax deductions from cost segregation include maximize annual depreciation, reduce upfront income tax costs, lower cost of capital, improved cash flow, improved shareholder value, and the ability to write off individual assets in future when removed. If you're interested in joining our investors group, you could go to cashflowninja.com/investors group and fill out an application form and or email me at info@cashflowninja.com to start the discussion to see if you're a good fit for our group. If you're in the Philadelphia, Bucks County, and Southern New Jersey area, we are hosting a live investors meetup event every month in Newtown, Pennsylvania. For more information on the monthly event and information on how to join us at our next live event, you could go to cashflowninja.com/events. MC Laubscher here, the host of the Cashflow Ninja podcast and also the president and chief wealth and investment strategist of Producers Wealth, where we help our clients integrate cashflow banking, also known as infinite banking, with their business and investments. If you're interested in learning more about how we create strategies that integrate cashflow banking and investments to turbocharge them, you can access a video series at yourownbankingsystem.com. That's yourownbankingsystem.com. Yonah, welcome to the show.
Thank you, MC. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, pleasure to connect. Thank you so much for connecting. Can you please share a little bit about your background and journey with my listeners? Absolutely.
First of all, I'd always wanted to be a ninja. And so I'm glad to actually, be able to speak with one live. I think, over the course of the past few years, time that I've been doing cost segregation, what I'm doing now, people will call me like a wizard and a Jedi, and all because it comes in the nature doing things that for a lot of people are out of the ordinary. But I love the ninja thing. It's like it's like a term of endearment of you're doing something totally beyond right what anyone can even imagine possible. Right? That's kind of what it means in the vernacular. So yeah, just a little bit about me. Originally from Southern California. I grew up in Los Angeles and went to college in San Diego. And after that, I actually moved to Israel to study and spent many, many years in Jerusalem studying. And, thank God I'm married, have 6 children now. And recently got involved in real estate a few years back, doing fix and flips, and got involved with it, got my commercial, I was doing commercial mortgages, got my real estate broker's license. I just wanted to learn everything there was to know about real estate, right? And so I figured being alongside people and learning from people who were involved in the industry on various different levels, different niches within the industry of real estate, I could learn the most just by spending time with them. So that's what I did, and which really led me to my current job and my current involvement, which is in cost segregation, which working with Madison Commercial Real Estate Services, one of the largest title companies, Madison Title, in the U.S., and as well as cost segregation, which is one of the services we provide. And, just getting involved in that, my background, like I said, I spent many years studying and teaching in that same time. So my background is a lot in education, and having 6 kids, makes you be involved in education, whether you want to or not.
Absolutely.
Teaching, having any children for that matter, and actually a great kind of old Jewish saying that we come is that from our teachers we learn a lot, and from our colleagues we learn even more, but from our students we learn the most. And so that's true. Something, and children are in a lot of ways like our students, because we're trying to teach them, and so I've learned so much from each one of my kids in a different way. And that's kind of shaped me in a lot of ways to who I am. And about education and being a forefront in that.
Absolutely. And our topic for conversation today is cost segregation, which you alluded to. And I think there might be some listeners that are not familiar with the term, or maybe they've heard about it. There's a little bit about a mystique about it. It's almost like that, as you mentioned, that Jedi trick, right? The ninja trick. So I think a good kickoff point for us would be just to explain a little bit what it is for real estate investors.
Sure. And I don't know about you, but I hate the name. Cost segregation is just weird. And like you said, it's like some sort of mystique to it, because it's like, what is this? But it's very simple. Anyone who owns a investment property, real estate, as long as not your personal residence, commercial, real estate, multifamily, whatever it is, you have a tax deduction from the IRS. This is in America. I think in other countries, there are other laws that are similar, but I'm not going to discuss that. Let's just discuss with the U.S. because that's what we deal with. The IRS allows you a deduction called depreciation, right? Depreciation sounds negative, but it's actually a really good thing. It's based on the fact that a property decreases in value with time, right? When you own something, everything decreases in value with time. So the IRS allows you to take a deduction from your income tax based on the value of the property from the time that you bought it. Okay, and that's divided up over a 39-year period for commercial properties, or 27.5-year period for multifamily or residential properties. Essentially, you're allowed to take a little deduction every year, a fraction of the property purchase price, of the value of that property. That's called depreciation. That's a standard deduction everyone does, and if you don't do it, you have to do it. Really, you're required by law to do it. If you're not doing it, check out your tax returns. Make sure you are getting that income tax deduction. It's a great thing. Now, where does cost segregation comes into play is that the IRS actually says that properties depreciate, correct, over 39 years or 27 years, but actually you can break down the property into many different categories that have various depreciation lives. So it's like segregating the property, the cost of the property, which means separating out different assets into what the IRS calls faster depreciation or accelerating depreciation lives. So for example, there's a large percentage of a property is called personal property. It's not part of the structure of the building. It's actually things like appliances, furnishings, fixtures, lighting, electric wiring, all kinds of things that are in the building, part of the property, have a value, but the IRS says they depreciate over a 5-year period, which means that the life of that asset, you can get those depreciation deductions of the value of that property over 5 years instead of spreading it out over 39 years. So what cost segregation essentially does is has an engineer who is well-versed in the tax code to know what all those things are in every building, and then come down, make a survey of the property, break out basically every little detail of the building into cost segregate into asset values, and then prepare an updated depreciation schedule and say, hey, 20% of this property I can depreciate, I can get those deductions over a 5-year period instead of waiting 27 years. That's essentially, without getting into all the details, that's essentially what it is.
So a big tax benefit for real estate investors, and we've shared on the show before that the IRS allows incentives in the tax code for people to do certain things. So that's why there's a lot of tax favorable treatment for businesses, because they produce and create services and goods. Real estate provides housing, and then there's oil and gas and conservation easements and all the other things where it's encouraging a certain behavior. So we've covered a little bit and talked a little bit on the tax side of it. Could you share some more information and maybe some case studies too of how this increases cash flow in specific examples for listeners?
Absolutely. And really it's very appropriate, because being the cash flow ninja, and if you're listening to this, you want to become a cash flow ninja, just like MC. So really, and that's what cost segregation happens to be, a huge cash flow machine. What it does is increases your income tax deductions, which essentially allows the money that you're making to be tax-free. So I'll give you an example. Say you buy a property for $1 million, okay? That property, we have to allocate a certain amount to land when you get the depreciable basis, the amount that you can actually depreciate. So let's say 10% we're gonna give off to land, 15%, let's say for a round number, leaves you with $850,000. That's the basis, which we divide up. Like we said, for a residential property, you bought a house, a duplex, fourplex, 850K, split that up into 27 and a half years. Okay, that's your $30,000, that comes out to about $30,000 roughly. Okay, now that's your basic cash, your tax deduction. Comes in cost segregation, comes in an engineer, goes to the property, prepares a study, breaks out all of the property that depreciates over 5 years and 7 years and 15 years, which are other categories, and gives you, over the first 5 years of owning the property, an extra, let's say $30,000, $40,000 of tax deductions. Okay, so let's say you made $100,000 in profit this year, $100,000, okay? With your regular depreciation, you get $30,000 deducted from that, so you would only be taxed on $70,000. Okay, comes in cost segregation, gives you a boost of more depreciation deductions, brings you up to let's say $60,000, $70,000. So now you're only going to be taxed on $30,000 of the $100,000 that you made. So instead of, let's say a person has a 30% tax rate, okay, so on a 30% tax rate, you would have been taxed, right, on the $100,000, $30,000. But you get depreciation, which brings you down to $70,000 deduction. $70,000 after the $30,000 deduction. You're going to get your be taxed instead of the $30,000 that you would have on the $100K. Right? Take $70,000. 30% of that is anyone $21,000. Okay, right? So you're going to get taxed on only $20,000. Instead of $30,000. Comes in cost segregation, instead of paying a tax bill of $30,000 or $20,000 or $21,000, you're going to end up paying a tax bill of about $10,000. Okay, so really your cash flow in that case is an extra $20,000 in your pocket that you would have given to the IRS.
You're listening to Yonah Weiss on the Cashflow Ninja podcast. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors.
Are you having a hard time finding great investment properties? Unfortunately, the best deals are rarely found locally. Successful investing begins with the right properties in the right markets. Norada Real Estate provides everything you need to invest in the best deals across the United States. Our simple, proven system will help you create real wealth and passive monthly cash flow. Learn how to find the best deals by downloading your free copy of The Ultimate Guide to Passive Real Estate Investing at noradarealestate.com. That's NORADA realestate.com.
Life settlement investments have allowed financial and banking institutions to not only buy their equity contractually, but also diversify their capital from any economic, market, and geopolitical risk. It's been part of the billion-dollar blueprint followed by institutional investors. And if you're an accredited investor, you can also now participate in this vehicle with enormous growth potential. You can watch an informational webinar presented by one of the premier organizations providing life settlement investments, Penumbra Solutions, at cashflowninja.com/life settlements. You're listening to Yonah Weiss on the Cashflow Ninja podcast, and now back to our interview. So there's a huge increase in cash flow right there, and then obviously offering a tax savings in the new the tax bill that was signed by President Trump. There's a lot of extra goodies in there as well.
Right.
I thought maybe you could share a little bit more information on that as well, and how that impacts this overall strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. There were a ton of benefits for real estate professionals, for real estate owners, property owners. I will touch on a couple of them. There are really too many to discuss in this platform, but I will touch on, let's say, the biggest one that relates to cost segregation is something called bonus depreciation, which allows you, the IRS says, all of that property, all that depreciation that you depreciate over 5 years and 15 years that allowed you a faster depreciation deduction, we're going to allow you to take that entire amount in year number one. Okay, this is called 100% bonus depreciation. It allows you to get all of those depreciation deductions that depreciate less than 20 years in year number one. Now, this can only be taken advantage of in the first year of ownership, the first tax year, basically, of owning the property. So what this does is creates huge tax deductions. Let's say instead of in our case where the guy made $100,000 and he was getting an extra, 20% of that over 5 years, right? So he was getting an extra $150,000 of deductions spread out over 5 years. Okay, with comes bonus depreciation and says, you know what? You can take that entire $150K in this year, which means essentially no taxes.
And a tax refund.
Well, you don't exactly get a tax refund. Unfortunately, the IRS is not that kind. They're not going to give you a refund. But what they will do is allow you, if that puts you into a minus, let's say you made $150K and you get you made $100,000, you get $150 of depreciated deduction. So that's going to put you in what's called a $50,000 loss, a passive loss.
Yep.
That loss it's not lost. Okay, it's called a loss, which just means that you're not making money, right? It's putting you in a negative, but it's just on paper. It's a paper loss. So that loss, you're not allowed to get a refund on that, but what it does, it gets carried forward, which means you can use those $50,000 next year if you have more income that you need to offset.
Great. So it's a great way of offsetting the income.
Huge.
Actionable advice for real estate investors of what they can do and questions to ask when they sit down with a professional or a tax strategist. What are some of the things that they can attack to make sure that they're taking full advantage of cost segregation and also bonus depreciation?
So the first thing I would say is, you assume that they're sitting down with a tax advisor. I would say the first step is doing that.
Yep.
Okay. Because not everyone is doing that. And I think that's really something that people are missing out. So many tax strategies just simply because they're not taking onto their team a tax advisor, a tax strategist, a CPA who is competent in the tax laws. So people like to do it on their own. They'll do, TurboTax or what have you, and figure they can just get it on their own. But it ends up being like, a friend of mine gave a parable recently. An example of what it's like. It's like the Duncan Hines. A Duncan Hines, right? You bake the cake, right? You put in all the ingredients, comes out exactly the same every time. Okay?
Yep.
So that's what TurboTax is. Okay? You put in the numbers, you follow the instructions, comes out the same results every single time. Now that's great if you want the same results every time, but the truth is there's so much more that can make it so much better if you have a professional making that cake. Right? A professional spicing it up and making sure you can have the best flavor out of it. So too with taxes, there's so many strategies and advice in order to get extra benefits, extra tax deductions, and keep your cash that you're making in your pocket. The IRS allows you to take those deductions, but if you don't know about it, you'll never get it. So that's really the segue to the next best thing is knowledge. Knowledge is so much power because money is power. And knowledge, if you don't know stuff, so learn. Listen to podcasts like this, read books, okay? Go to conferences, whatever it is to learn more about how you can make more money, how you can save money, and don't be afraid to ask the questions.
Absolutely. And that's another thing, too, that there are people that specialize in this type of stuff, right? Taxes is very holistic. Everything ties together, and your personal economy, your business economy, your family, all that kind of stuff. But you want to have a professional on your team that specializes in these strategies and is very competent and knowledgeable of how to use this in your specific situation. So TurboTax, H&R Block, even the brother-in-law that does your taxes, you have to, if you want to play at a higher level, you constantly have to upgrade the professionals that you're working with and play with people that are playing on that higher level. And as you mentioned, education and knowledge is the first thing. So listening to shows, read up a little bit about it. That'll get you to ask the right questions, because you don't have to know everything. You just have to know what questions to ask and have competent professionals around you to assist you, to help you towards your goals. That's part of your team. One habit that I've observed from wealthy and successful people is that they're always studying new things and researching and learning new skill sets. And you're in a field that's constantly changing. Although real estate is slow moving, it's constant. The taxes is constantly changing.
Totally.
What are some of the things that you're studying? What are some of the things that you're looking at? And what are some of the opportunities that you see out in 2019?
Yeah, well, I think, there's so much to learn, and sometimes it's hard to know. I love to listen to podcasts, and I love to, find those professionals and those great people that have the knowledge so I can learn from. And to my advantage, I work for an amazing company who have on an in-house team of tax experts, and specialists so I can really ask any tax question I have. I just, have a guy, our in-house CPAs that can really take care of everything and answer anything. And so what we're focusing on right now, and I think more than anything, everyone is focusing on about, is just trying to get wrap our heads around the new tax reform, because there's so many nuances to it, and so much of it has yet to be determined really what it means. Meaning they made the tax reform, but they didn't yet give all the rules and all the guidelines of how to actually implement it. So, there's constantly stuff coming out on how to go about implementing the new tax code. So, there's endless amount of stuff, being able to read up upon.
Yeah, there's a lot of gray areas too, right? So there's a lot of things that need to be ironed out, as you mentioned, a lot of stuff to be determined. So this is something that listeners want to pay close attention to, because tax planning is 12 months a year, 365 days a year. You have to be cognizant of that. You have to be aware. This has to be on your radar, because it is one of the biggest wealth destroyers out there, and could be, if you know what you're doing and you're surrounding yourself with the right team members and you have the right professionals that's supporting you, it could be one of the most powerful tools that you have. It all depends how you use it. It's almost like an axe, right? You could hurt yourself potentially with it, or you can produce and create and chop down wood in this example and make a fire, and cook some food. So I just threw that out there. That just came right up, right? Core message in our show is to leave our families, communities, and the world better than we found it by passing down a mindset, values, and principles to future generations, not just money. So if you cannot pass on any money to future generations, and we're only allowed to pass on 3 principles to them to build wealth and achieve happiness and success, what would they be?
Number 1 is integrity. And that's something that really is hard to teach, because it's only taught by example. And so if you don't have it, you can't really teach it. Nevertheless, it's probably the prime necessary trait for being successful, and not just successful monetarily, but how I define success is not just about money. Success is so much more than money. Success is being the type of person that you want to be, that is true to your values. And success is leaving a legacy that is true to that. So integrity, being that person who does not compromise on principles, ethical principles, that to me is number one. Absolutely, without saying. Number two, I think, and it has to do with relationships. Integrity really tells you, being honest, business, being in everything that you do, not just in business, but, to everything you do. And I think that lesson is taught. The second thing is really, placing a value on money, even if you cannot leave over money, but having to know what the value is, and to not take for granted. I think there are two things, knowing the value of money and not taking things for granted, but they're really, it's kind of two sides of the same coin, so to speak, because when you appreciate what you have, and I think this also brings to a very old Jewish principle, Jewish saying that said, this comes from the Ethics of Our Fathers, which is a 3,000-year-old book, which says that, asks the question, who is a wealthy man? Who is a rich person? And the answer to that question is the one who is happy with what they have, one who is content with what they have. Because if you're always looking for more, then you don't really know what you have. And so being content with what you have, and I think that's what I'm saying, having the value of money, meaning you know what you have and you value that, right? So, for example, not to throw away money, not to waste money. You value time, you value money. That's the second thing. And again, the third thing is really playing into that, which is the same thing as being grateful and acknowledging others, because it comes around. When you're grateful, when you recognize that, being humble and being grateful, saying, this is not coming from me. There's so much more that's beyond me and greater than me. And that cannot be, you can't fake that. Okay, but nevertheless, gratitude is probably, I don't know, maybe it's even more important than integrity, but it's up there.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing. Where can my listeners learn more about you? Where can they follow you, and where can they reach out to connect?
So I'm very active on LinkedIn. Happens to be my main stomping ground. I love it there. I post pretty much every day, and I'm very active. You can find me there. There's not too many Yonah Weisses out on LinkedIn. In fact, I'm the only one. I keep searching it, hoping another one's going to come up, but no, I'm the only one. Bigger Pockets, I'm also pretty active there. It's a great real estate investing platform. And you can reach me in my direct number if you have any questions, 732-298-9002. My email, if you want, Madison SPECS is my company, yweiss@madisonspecs.com. You can reach out. You can probably put it in the show notes or something. But this is, if anyone has any questions about cost segregation specifically, please feel free to reach out. We offer a free estimate on any property. So if you have something you're thinking about considering doing a cost seg, we'll show you the numbers and make an educated decision. Does this make sense for me? Does it not? And that's really the best thing.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your journey and your knowledge and providing so much value for my listeners. This has been a blast connecting, my friend. I appreciate you.
Awesome, MC. Thanks so much for having me, and I do appreciate you reaching out and making this happen. I hope to do it again.
Gold is one of the few financial assets that is not someone else's liability and has been recognized as money and a store of value for over centuries and used by the wealthy as wealth insurance. In a world where all countries have only fiat currencies and have a combined debt of over $247 trillion, gold is the ultimate form of wealth insurance. You can buy your own physical gold and silver at cashflowninja.com/gold silver. That's cashflowninja.com/gold silver. Thank you again for joining me on the Cashflow Ninja. If you like what you hear and appreciate what we're trying to build here, please subscribe, rate, and write a review for our show on iTunes and share our show with family, friends, and your network. If you're not a subscriber to our newsletter, you can sign up for our newsletter at cashflowninja.com. I want to thank you for spending your most precious resource with me today, your time. Until next time, my friend, live a life of passion and purpose on your terms. presentation is for educational and informational purposes only. The information being presented and considered does not consider your particular financial objectives or situation, and it does not make personalized recommendations. This material is not intended to replace the advice of a qualified tax and legal advisor or other qualified professionals, and you should not use the information in place of a customized consultation with a licensed professional regarding your specific personal financial objectives, situation, and needs. We believe the information provided is reliable, but we do not guarantee its accuracy, timeliness, or completeness.